Nwigwe is not just a rapper, but a brand.
Go subscribe, yeah, subscribe.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to Brews and Reviews. It is knowledge. Today I'm reviewing TOBE NWIGWE's moMints. This is the Houston phenom who has a growing and prominent fan base, though still not discussed enough in mainstream circles. He brought his own brand completely to his last project, CINCORIGINALS, introducing us to the skills of his wife as well, and featuring his whole family on the cover. And one thing that jumps out about this rapper is his abundance of energy that seeps through his rhymes. To me, much in the vein of Killer Mike or DMX in the energy levels, but probably the forerunner of energetic rappers in this current generation of MCs. As you can see here from the opening track, Round Here, the album begins with his powerful voice a cappella briefly before the beat kicks in. That's right, they don't need the beat to suck you into this album, just the personality of Mr. Nwigwe speaking himself. But as the beat kicks in, he gets even more enthusiastic, his voice crescendoing to a controlled yell that makes you want to nod your head in unison to it, even more than the beat does. This track climaxes before he even gets to the verse. The chorus being so loud, the verse sounds more hushed in comparison. A great technique sonically, but also making you focus that much more on what he is saying due to the sudden change. And he does spit some jewels here. He says, "Hopefully I sow seeds that lead them to green pastures. Told my dog you ain't no slave, them whips and chains just got you mastered." The whips and chains in this context are cars and jewelry. Round Here Part 2, the tone changes yet again with his wife spitting the same chorus, but in a completely different style. But it's still interesting that the chorus crescendos in the same way. I love it when diametric songs can tie elements together, but still be very much different and unique in their own right. And that's exactly what's going on with these first two tracks. Her crescendo of a chorus leads to another relatively hushed verse by TOBE, and the beat also becomes much more intricate than the minimalist style that we heard on the first verse on the first track. And we've heard so many different styles in just these first two songs. It really lets you know how much TOBE and his crew put into their craft. Destruction, and this is why I say TOBE has a crew, because there seems to be a whole team dedicated to his vision. The three producers, himself, Nick Baker, and keyboardkid doing almost every track. The actual chorus that he got participating in many of the tracks, including this one and the two previous tracks. The greens and whites look in every video. Nwigwe is creating a brand. This track features Coast Contra, an up-and-coming West Coast group. Many people are praising their album, Apartment 505, from earlier this year. The jury's still out on that one for me, but if judged by these verses alone, these dudes got skill. As Raz Austin flips almost an old school type of flow, but one of the good old school flows like leaders of the new school era Busta Rhymes, that's what he sounds like. And the contrast of Rio Loz's deeper voice and style, more like the calmer version of Nwigwe himself, only for Eric Jamal to be more like the loud version of Nwigwe. This makes this track very interesting, and this group interesting due to the distinctness in their style. Sometimes guys in the same crew will have very similar styles, but when they're unique, the groups really stand out. That's why Wu is my favorite of all time, because each artist had their distinct style And actually, now that I'm breaking this track down, I gotta go back and listen to Contra's album, give these guys another chance. Lord Forgive Me, you'd probably say this is the hit. I think TOBE released about 5 singles off this, and this was the last single, but for sure, it's the one intended to be the biggest hit. He's bringing out the heavyweights, and he has a talent for getting big names on his projects. You know, I first checked him out because he had Royce the 5'9" and Black Thought on his track Father Figure. That's how I got into Nwigwe. And this one features Earthgang, who was also featured on his first album, and Pharrell, who handles the production on this. TOBE kicks it off, displaying the fact that he's a family man, but will protect his no matter what, and exemplifies it all in this slightly humorous line when he says, "If the opposition make a pit stop, by the drip drop get popped while some kids bop's playing." First verse by Fat on the album on this track, and given her skill, I could see her being a standalone artist in her own right, but right now she's very much a piece of Nwigwe's brand. Get a Little Bag, the same subject matter from the previous track continues, and Fat displays an even more impressive flow than she did on the previous track, mentioning how Beyonce reached out to her after she said she was about to be on a first name basis with Miss Carter on their previous album. Been Broke, a classic Southern song about living in poverty. This has been done many times by Southern artists. It's almost a tradition, so I like that TOBE ties himself into that. It's a genre into itself, and the spirit and style of this really remind me of Nappy Roots, Po Folks, and by the way, shout out to Fish Scales, who was robbed and shot at his brewery, wishing him a speedy recovery. A rapper with a brewery, there's nothing better in my mind, and I'm gonna go support that if I'm ever in their area. There's nice wordplay from Nwigwe to kick off this track. He says, "I've been broke like the USA government," and broke is a double entendre here because the government is in debt, but more importantly, it doesn't work, and our whole political system is in jeopardy. So yeah, it's a little broke right now. And if you're gonna do a Southern tradition, who better to get than 2 Chainz and Chamillionaire? Though 2 Chainz spits almost comically off subject, saying things like eating shrimp, day shift with a pole dancer. That doesn't sound like you made it. If you're eating seafood during the day shift in a strip club, sounds like you almost might be down on your luck a little bit. That sounds like the opposite of making it. He goes on to say that he's swapping his EBT for cash. And I got to shout out a great YouTuber rap critic here. I could see this verse being on his worst lyrics I heard this month series. This is definitely a contender for that. But Chamillionaire saves the day, speaking on the topic at hand with authority. And I haven't heard from Chamillionaire in a while, but I did enjoy his first 2 albums. And I didn't know where he's been, but apparently he's been doing even better than making music, as he casually throws out that he's been investing. That's an understatement, because apparently he's investing in things like Ring and Lyft and other companies. He even invested in a startup that sold for hundreds of millions of dollars to Disney. And I love the last line he says here, "Could have been a one-hit wonder. You should wonder why I ain't living in that situation y'all in." He acknowledges here the success of his track Riding Dirty, and that could have been it for him, but he used that money to make real investments and build real wealth. Rap made him a chamillionaire, but investing might make him a kabillionaire. And with that, I'm gonna drink to this track. I am sipping on a Great Divide, one of my favorite breweries. Just found this today, Orabel Belgian style ale, and this is a very strong 8.3% that goes down smooth. I don't know that I've actually tasted an 8.3% that's this smooth before. metaphor, and I thought that was perfect for TOBE NWIGWE, because even when he's yelling at you, even when that bass is just beating up your ears and vibrating your head through, it's still just smooth as hell somehow. So this style is like Nwigwe. Let's get back to it. Head to Hades. This is another collab with Royce the 5'9", and this combo works, so why not tap into it again? TOBE comes through with a few metaphors like big cappers wearing sombreros, and Royce spits his trademark run-on controversial flow. I hope you're checking out his greatest hits album, which came out around the same time as this. Royce is making us Google some shit again, like he's done often of late, when he says Francis Cress Welsing, ISIS papers replaced by Bible pages. And this person he's talking about was apparently a psychologist who believed some really controversial things about race and wrote a book on it called The ISIS Papers. Catfish Blackened with Grits featuring CeeLo Green. And if you want to hear an old head perspective on the greatness that used to be CeeLo, watch my rant on the Earthgang review. In fact, here's a snippet right now. CeeLo was on the cutting edge of hip-hop, one of the coldest flows in the game right there. And this is another adequate outing rapping from the OG here. And hey, Danger Mouse is back and CeeLo's back. Maybe another Gnarls Barkley album is in our near future. We'll see. Mini-Me is another track about how Nwigwe is a father figure, basically saying that these mini-me's are copying his style, or as he puts it even better, he says, "Fat just had my son indeed, but a small catch is that I've had sons, just not out my ball sack." Chopped it up with Pharrell, a little more introspective. TOBE reflects on where and how he grew up. Toned down beat, drumless, which is rare for this dude who has so much energy, but it's a perfect, softer track to end the album out. Like I said, this dude has a brand. It isn't TOBE NWIGWE without the green and white, without Fat, without him talking about his kids, without the collaborations, without the emphatic production and tone shifts throughout. It's a very unique style that can be categorized as only his. And it's definitely his vision, but the contributors to it all fit his scheme perfectly. I place this in quality very close to CINCORIGINALS, though I think I favor that one a little bit more, but this is definitely a continuation of the brand, the experience, as he says on this cover, that he started with that album. And I give this an 8 out of a 12 pack. Thank you for watching my review of TOBE NWIGWE's moMints. If you like this, go ahead and hit like now and hit me up in the comments. If you didn't like it, also let me know why in the comments. I drop hip-hop and hops related content consistently, so subscribe to my channel now. And until I see you next time, keep buzzing.
The man says subscribe. But if he's on his channel saying that somebody's album is better than mine, unsubscribe to that motherfucker.
No, your album's the best, man.
There you go. Subscribe.
Yeah.
Subscribe.